So let's begin. For those of you who I haven't met yet, my name is Olga. I am a teacher and a teacher trainer. I will be working with my charming student Evgenia, who I have just met. This is a complete stranger to me, but she kindly agreed to assist us. She will be acting as a student and will be working with some Lexis. Will role play a part of the lesson that is dedicated to teaching Lexis. Evgenia has no idea what she's going to do, right, Evgenia? I haven't given her anything.
No idea at all.
Yeah, no idea at all. So that's that will be a complete surprise. I hope everything goes well. If not, please be kind to us, because, you know, in real life, you work with students that you have met before and you know what their real level is and their interests and so on, but we'll try to do our best. So as we are talking about Lexis, we have already started talking earlier in the week, and you answered some questions that I was interested in. So let's see what you all think. Most of you, 75%, say that yes, it's important for every student to enlarge their vocabulary, but we'll have to admit that some students don't think that they need that, and some students just have some peculiar goals that don't really depend on Lexis much, which is fine. You know, people are different, their real needs are different, so we should take that into account too. How do you usually present the new words, phrases? The ways that you use are mostly the way it is suggested on the platform, also using the context and using definitions. A bit more than half of colleagues that took part in this poll use translation, and a bit less than half use realia. Let's put a pin on the question about translation. That was also a question from one of you in the slot to ask questions. If we have time, let's discuss it separately. Oh, I can hear some feedback from someone. So if you are not using a headset, please mute yourself, because, you know, then you create some echo for us. So as we can see, most important cases are platform, context, and definitions. I would like to show you some snippets from a course book where some vocabulary is presented, and let's just discuss, is it a good way to present this particular set of words? Maybe something different could work better. What do you usually do if you teach something like that? Okay. Oh, yeah, but I forgot that I have another slide. Which is about how easy it is for your students to remember the new vocabulary. And as we can see, only 10% said that it's mostly easy. And in all the other cases, it depends on the topic, the level, the student, the purpose, how necessary it is, and so on. Yeah, this is my slides. And problems with teaching Lexis that we have is mostly the same, that students forget the words. You present your vocabulary, everything looks great at the lesson when this new language is presented, but then they just forget them. Another common problem is it's hard to present. You try not to translate, but sometimes you don't know what else you can do. You don't know how to explain, you don't know how to create some, I don't know, associations, something else. Okay, here, the second from the bottom, if a student doesn't understand a word, I use it in a context and find examples in the dictionary. Some of you also find it confusing to use dictionaries because the definitions are too academic. So basically, two problems that we have: how to present and how to make them retain this vocabulary. Right, let's start with the presentation. So how about this slide? You can probably recognize the book. Maybe you work with it. Is it a good idea to present those prepositions in this way.
I think yes, it's good.
Why?
Because we elicit material that we had learned before.
But we haven't learned it before. This is new vocabulary.
If we have not, it's not good.
Okay, why not? Again, my favorite question. Why? Why not? Why?
Because students don't know what preposition to use. I mean, some adjectives are followed by definite prepositions, so we have to give a rule first of all, yeah, and then only provide practice.
Set an example first.
Right. So here we are using, if we are following this approach, we're using test, teach, test, which is fine. This is the intermediate level. They probably know at least something. They probably know that you should say, I'm afraid of, and I'm good at, or we can hope that they know. So we can test and see what they know, and then we can teach what they don't know, and then we can practice, or like the second part of the test. But you're absolutely right that we are not teaching here. We are just testing them. And if we are, they should know that we will teach them later in our teach part. Okay, what else could work with prepositions? What could be an alternative, if not this approach? If not testing them, how can we actually teach? Someone said rules. What is the rule? What is the rule, for example, of using the preposition of?
Well, there is no such a rule. Like
Right.
we can just give some tables, you know, like for example, adjectives that are followed by a preposition for, and the list of these adjectives, yeah, or yeah, if it's adjectives, yeah, in most cases it's adjectives. So
Yeah.
and another column adjectives followed by a preposition like from, yeah.
So you think that they should learn a table, a list of adjectives, and then another list of adjectives. How not to get confused?
Prepositions of time and place can be given with pictures. And the visual part will help to memorize them easily than just to learn them by heart. But I think without learning by heart, you can't cope with prepositions anyway.
Well, of course, you know, rote memorization is, you know, like time proven for centuries, a proven method. But it's not the most exciting, I must say. I hate learning by heart, I don't know about you. I liked someone's idea about the context, because then they at least have some associations, you know, and pictures. If you can come up with pictures, they work too. So something that is not just a list like multiplication table, yeah? Something that they can relate to. I believe that could be easier for them. All right, another presentation. How about this? Is it a good way to present this vocabulary?
Well, if the intermediate level student is already familiar with some of words, he may probably start with matching familiar ones, and then I think only guessing is the way. But as for presenting new material, I think it's not really good, because the student doesn't know what is what.
Right, but well, here they are of the intermediate level, because it's again the same book. I think for this set of Lexis it works, because you don't need to give a definition of a nose. You can just show, right, or any other part of the body that is appropriate to show to your student. You can just show. They don't know an elbow. This is it. Yeah? That's fine. Here we save time, we save efforts, we save them from some frustration, you know, because sometimes definitions are really wordy, and it's hard to use the dictionary even with the intermediate level students. So the simpler, the better in this situation. I think it's a good idea that about a half of you use realia to present new words. So whenever you can show something, it's just better. You know, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Yeah, so they say. So I think that's a good idea. How about this one?
Again, is it presenting new material or practicing or testing?
This is presenting. This is
presenting. Okay. And it's intermediate level.
Yes.
Well, they may be familiar with some of the verbs, so we can use this methodic test teach test. So like give them time to fill in the gaps that they are sure of, yeah, and then just present new verbs.
Yeah. Anything else that we can do here?
Maybe we can ask students which words they are not familiar with and give the definitions of these unknown words before doing this task.
So you suggest presenting this vocabulary with the help of definitions and then doing this activity as just controlled practice, yes?
Yes, so which words you don't know, let us discuss the meaning and then do the exercise.
Well, this is an intermediate student that can actually understand definitions. That could work, but maybe there are easier ways, you know, easier for the student and less time consuming. So like pass and fail the test. Would it be okay, instead of giving definitions, do something like, if you fail the test, this is your result. If you pass the test, this is your result.
Again, body language, it's possible.
So I'm all in favor of something simple that saves time and effort. But I think this idea of presenting it in a story is a very good idea, but I would just put them in the story and then make the student figure out the meaning. So after seeing the story, that could be not a bad idea to maybe ask them some questions to check if they understand what the vocabulary means here. That could probably work because, you know, then they have some context. It's easier to work with that. All right, so Evgenia, are you ready? I hope you are, because we're about to start our lesson fragment. For the sake of saving time, let me see, we'll be shortening some stages. We won't be role-playing everything as I would do at a real lesson, because we also want to discuss what is about to happen now, right? If you have some questions, remarks, please write everything in the chat as we go. I won't react because, you know, I will be busy working with my student. But after that, we'll discuss everything that you put in the chat, if we have time, of course. So my aim is the following. This is my intermediate level student, and I would like her to learn some verbs that are called delexicalized, but it sounds scary. In fact, it's something very simple, like have a look and get mad, because intermediate level students, when they are trying to enlarge their vocabulary, sometimes they get too academic, and sometimes they don't know such, simple everyday things. And I would like to teach her some of those verbs, show how they work in the context. So my aim is to draw her attention to this target language, to let her explore the context and figure out the meaning by herself with the help of guided discovery. I will give her some controlled practice, and I will give her a free practice activity to use it in fluent speaking. It will be all informal. We'll have an informal story and an informal conversation in the end because, because of the nature of the Lexis. So, Evgenia, break a leg. Let's start. All right, Evgenia. So here I have some pictures that are like illustrations to the story. So this young man that you can see here, this is my friend's sister, and he took some pictures just to show her, to illustrate his story. Those are just, some photos from his phone. What can his story be about?
I suppose his story might be about one spoiled trip somewhere, probably. So he tried to share all the misfortunes he had to suffer from. Yeah, and I suppose this story doesn't have a happy end.
Good guess. Yeah, look at his face. Nothing happy about it. Okay, before we start reading the story, some words that might be hard to understand, so let's deal with them now. If I met my boyfriend a year ago, today is our anniversary. Yes, so we want to celebrate, yes, this date a year ago. Okay, you know the word, great. And the car wheel has this rubber thing. This is a
tire.
And if a driver hits something sharp, it's this is a puncture. Yes, a hole. The air goes out. Bad situation. Okay, wonderful. So then, we will read the story now. Let me see how I can do it. Your task will be to put the pictures in the correct order. I'll probably just stop sharing for a second to send you the link. Oops. To send you the link in the Skype, and then everyone else, don't worry, I'll continue sharing. I will be showing the text on my screen, but just for Evgenia to be more comfortable, she can look at the text on her own screen. So Evgenia, you can go ahead and start reading, and we'll be looking at the same text all together.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, wonderful. Returning to the story. So how can you put the pictures in the correct order?
All right, so the first picture is the first. He booked a table at, in the restaurant at the lake.
Mm-hmm.
Then when he was trying to get there with his girlfriend,
Mm-hmm.
he got stuck in a traffic jam.
Okay.
After that, he got a puncture.
Do you have a puncture here? I'm sharing my screen now. Yeah, you can look at the pictures again.
Yeah. After that, he had his car broken. So he suggested his girlfriend to have a stroll somewhere in the countryside. It's picture number 2, and he ended up being dumped by Jane.
Yeah, and hence the sad face. Okay, as you can suspect, my side
Truly
remark here to the
pathetic.
audience, my student is far from being intermediate, but that's what they gave me. I just met Evgenia, an hour ago in Skype. Okay, but of course we can imagine what a real intermediate student would say. Well done. So now I would like to show you how to guess the words from the text, the meaning of the words. So let's think about our real life. For a date and anniversary, men, flowers. What do they do with flowers?
They present. They give it as a present.
Give, okay, buy, yes, so do something like this with flowers. Wonderful. So this is our real life experience. If we look at the text, this little, what is it called? Paragraph, right? An extract from the text. Sorry. Let's try to figure out the meaning from here. If you look at the sentence, can we say buy in this context?
I think yes.
Which category does it go to? Is it receive or obtain or understand, become? What would be buy a synonym to?
Receive and obtain.
Wonderful. So if we don't know the word and we want to guess, what can we use? We use our... Not gestures. No, I'm just gesturing. So we thought about our experience, right? And we can also use this paragraph that we looked at. We use the word
Context.
around the context. Yeah. So real life experience and the context. Those usually help. So now, Evgenia, let's see what meanings the word get has in our text. I would ask you to look at the text. The phrases are highlighted. Find the ones with get and put them in 4 groups. And I'm sure Evgenia can do that successfully. So this is what she got. For us to save time, yeah, let's imagine that she did that. So we have different meanings of the word get in different phrases. Right, giving you a second to look through the phrases. All of you. Also, we had some phrases with the verb have. So let's look at these phrases and tell me if they sound more like an order or an offer.
Okay, have a look, have a stroll, have a try. I think they sound like an offer.
So we're nice, friendly, polite, yes, and instead of just try, yeah, we say, have a try. Yeah, a suggestion. Okay. Here again, 2 sentences from our text. Do they require some serious effort?
No, I don't think so.
That's right. Are they done once or repeatedly?
I think once.
So that's the meaning of have. Instead of just read, we can say have a read. Stroll, have a stroll. If it's not serious and only once. Okay, there you go. Now let's pronounce some phrases. So listen to me. Jane decided to have a read. Listen, Jane decided to have a read. Is it or separately?
Well, I don't think it's separated. It's
No, it's okay. Yeah, no phonetic terms. Not scaring away the student. Okay, can you repeat? Have a read.
Have a read.
Decided to have a read.
Decided to have a read.
Okay, wonderful. And we do the same with the rest of the phrases. We pay attention that we don't say get going. We say get going. Boom. Don't get it, no T. So we drill all this wonderful stuff. And we move to the form. My intermediate student definitely knows all scary words like pronoun and adjective. So we match the phrases with their structures. So get stuck and get dumped would be I shared this presentation with other people before. I believe I never checked. I believe they made some arrows wrong. So obviously this is just verb plus past participle. Yes, so this must be moved here. Can I? No, I cannot. I have to stop presenting. Okay, so verb plus past participle. Give someone flowers, verb plus pronoun plus noun. And when Evgenia does that, I would ask her to give me more. What else can we use? We have the structure, verb plus past participle. Get stuck, get dumped. What else can we say?
Get tired.
Perfect. Anything else? And the same with other structures. Like get furious, verb plus adjective. If I'm like, whoa, I get
Shocked.
okay, shocked. Anything else? Maybe it's a pleasant shock. Then it's like, oh, my birthday present.
Can we get enthusiastic?
Sure. Or surprised, excited. Yeah. So we'll brainstorm more versions of the vocabulary that she knows already, nothing new, that follows this structure. So whatever she says, if it follows the pattern, I will accept. I will not teach her any new words. She has enough for today. And again, all that and some more controlled practice. Let's just do a couple of them. Can you match the sentences to make mini dialogues?
Okay. So what would you like to do today? Probably F. Let's have a stroll. The weather is nice.
Yes, that's right.
Why did you miss the party yesterday? I think it's D. I got stuck at work.
Good.
Why is Scott so unhappy? He got dumped.
Okay, I think that's enough for now. Again, you can continue, you can imagine how this control practice continues. And we move to our freer practice. So, Evgenia, you have the text, you can look at it and see all the highlighted phrases. And let's imagine the following situation, that you are Jane, this poor girlfriend who had a very unfortunate date, and I am your friend. And I want to know more about your situation. Yes, so think how you would tell the story to your friend. Again, a real intermediate student would need some time to prepare, maybe take notes. If Evgenia is advanced enough, I can just talk to her. So, Jane, Happy anniversary! How did it go?
Oh, it was a disastrous one.
No. Why? What happened?
Everything started just brilliantly. He got me a bunch of roses that I like.
That's romantic. Did he get you anything else?
He invited me to the romantic date. So I was expecting something unbelievable to happen. So we got going there, and we got stuck in a traffic jam. Imagine.
Oh, that's frustrating. Yeah. That's so
So not to get bored, I decided to have a read, and I guess that that irritated Ita a little bit.
Oh, you forgot his name already. Look at you. Okay, so I think that's enough. So we can see how it can happen with a real student, how we can ask all those questions, lead her to the vocabulary that she might need. If she's not using it, I can ask some questions that would, you know, prompt some particular vocabulary, and then I would give her some feedback. Here I can only say that Evgenia was more brilliant than any intermediate student imaginable. A round of applause for Evgenia, everyone. She did well. And yeah, some applause I can hear. Okay, so that would be it. I don't see any messages in the chat. Is it just my unfortunate situation, or are there none? Do we have to stop sharing? Do we have any messages in the chat? Guys, come on. Yes, no. Okay, I'll check. Looks like we don't. We'll continue sharing.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask a question, but I didn't have time to type it really. But it isn't much of a question. I think it's just a small remark from me. Yeah, just you know, while asking your student to figure out the meanings of some things, you use some words that might be really challenging for an intermediate student. I just know that because they are for my intermediate students. Those words like obtain, I don't know, require. Really, we can get stuck here because they usually don't know such words, and it's too scary.
Good point. Good point.
Maybe I'd go with something, you know, simpler.
Maybe, but as you can see, I was creating a lesson for some imaginary student that I never met, right? Knowing my real student, I would probably do something different, found some simple vocabulary, maybe use pictures, gestures, and I did use a lot of gestures as you have seen. Yeah, but that's a good point. So if you don't have any questions in the chat, I have a lot of questions. And my first question is, have I reached my aim? And how do you know if I have or haven't?
So if the student uses this topical vocabulary in the freer practice, you have reached your aim.
Yay me. Well, to be honest, it was entirely Evgenia's brilliant level of English that we reached our aim. But I did, I don't know, maybe some of you have attended this seminar before. I did have the same experience with a student who was like a real intermediate, and we achieved the aim too. Okay, what went well here and why?
There were stages of teaching this vocabulary, good stages,
okay,
logical.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything else other than staging?
Well, I think the structure of the lesson itself is well balanced. because the student step by step achieves the free practice, which allows to not to cram, but to seed these words in their mind.
Okay. Such a brilliant student, right? Okay, what didn't go well and why? Like Svetlana said, maybe my definitions were too complicated. Maybe I could have done something differently. Maybe there's something else.
As for me, I would give the students like the list of these phrases when practicing for fluency, speaking for fluency, because even me, I didn't remember all the phrases.
Right, but she could see her text because I gave her a link. Yes, so just for your sake, I was going through the presentation. To a real student, of course, I would give maybe a list of phrases or even the text to see them in the context, which was what we did actually. She could see the whole text. Okay, anything else? Maybe I forgot about something. I'm only human. Okay, I can say what I totally forgotten and I realized when it was too late. I never gave her any instructions for reading. No time limit. Well, I did give instructions like read and match the pictures, yes, but I didn't give her any time limit, didn't ask her any ICQs, but she managed in spite of that, so. If it happens at a real lesson, don't hesitate to say, oh, just forgot, sorry. 1 minute to look through the text, or just to check, do you need to do this and that? No, perfect. Do what I said you should do. Okay, anything else? All right, why did I use a text for the presentation? Why not pictures? Why not definitions? Why meaning and gesturing? Anything else?
Probably because that's the context that the student would associate the new words with.
Okay. Any more ideas?
Or maybe because in the text you can use these forms like get, plus, past participle, not the infinitives, different forms.
Right. Any other reason for me to use the text?
Well, in text you have a context. So, for example, when you give a definition, you might fail, to give the right definition, and the student might get it all wrong. But while the student is reading the text, he or she can just figure out the meaning based on their experience. Yeah, and just from the context there, they understand what to expect.
Right.
And maybe when you asked the student in free practice to role play the dialogue, she could follow, she could use this text logically.
Right. And also, was my set of Lexis formal or informal?
More informal.
Is it easier to see from some situation, from the context, or from a list of words?
From the context.
Right. In the list of words, you have no idea what register it is. Okay. What did we work with first and why?
Well, first you dealt with language difficulties. You explained some challenging vocabulary.
So that was repetition, blocking vocabulary. Okay, so in terms of the Lexis, so we have meaning, pronunciation, form. What was the first?
Oh, it was the meaning, I guess.
Why?
Well, because it's important that the student understands the words, first of all, that he or she can recognize them. And only after that we teach the student to use them in the speech.
I'm sorry, who's playing the music? Can you please mute yourself or find some other time for listening to the music? Absolutely right. So first of all, it doesn't make sense to practice the pronunciation of the words that you don't know. Yes, so some jibber jabber. Why would we pronounce that? The same with form. It doesn't make sense to find some structures or to pay attention to suffixes, prefixes, whatever is important for your vocabulary if you don't know the meaning of the word. Yes, what can you possibly study about this word? So that's why we start with the meaning first. How did I help my student guess the meaning? Well, granted, she didn't need any help, but if I had a student who would struggle, and a lot of students, they are like this, they don't want to guess. They want to click on something and see the picture that helps or some definition from the dictionary or translate it because, we're all online, we can do that. How did I help her guess? Did I give her some clues?
You used miming about flight and puncture.
Anything else that I did?
Some sounds.
Pardon?
When you speaking about puncture, you make some sounds.
Yes, but that was teaching my blocking vocabulary. Okay, I did too much vocabulary in this lesson. I mean my target language. Those phrases with get and have. What did I do? Did I show her how to guess?
Yes, when you asked, you tried to make you think about using contexts as a way of guessing during the exercise.
Right, and your real life experience. And I think it's important to teach students how to guess. It's not, well, now I think those situations are getting less and less common when you have no access to some translator, online dictionary, something else. But still, well, there are such situations, and it's in most situations we can figure out the meaning if we think what can people possibly do in this situation from our life experience, or figuring it out from the meaning of the other words in the sentence, in the paragraph. So code text, yes, that could help. Why did pronunciation go before form? Why did I first drill some words and phrases and all those phonetic things and then looked at adjectives, pronouns and stuff?
Maybe just to make it fresh?
Can you elaborate on that?
I mean, we have just read the text, discussed the situation, and then just not to have some pause between this, just go further.
But we can go further to adjectives, pronouns, and what have you, with the same phrases.
I think it is because a person can take a look at a word and get the wrong pronunciation. In 1 second is enough to start thinking that, for example, I don't know, with is which or something like this, and you'd better do it as soon as possible, lest it happens.
So I'm sure you all have students who say something like knife, useful, or something like this. Where does it all come from? well, from their own understanding how to pronounce some words that they came across independently without a teacher, or from someone's wrong presentation when they looked at the form first and then at the pronunciation. So that's why when we're working with vocabulary, it's meaning, pronunciation, and form. So I used guided discovery here. Was it a good idea in figuring out the meaning?
I think it helps.
Yeah, definitely it was good.
Okay, why?
Guided discovery is always the case because they learn by themselves.
Yeah, I like that too. Consciously speaking, I cannot say. Okay, I like guided discovery myself, but maybe someone thinks that it was not a good idea. We could have done something else.
Helps to remember, and these words were the goal of the lesson. I sometimes doubt that it is that we should use guided discovery when a student doesn't understand the word that isn't the goal of the lesson, that this just happens in the text. So in terms of efficacy is not good here. It helps to remember.
I do believe that when they make their own conclusions, like, okay, what is the difference? It could be a valid question from your student, like, why do we say have a read or take a stroll or have a stroll in our context? Why not just I read or I strolled? And of course, we can tell them that we use it when it's informal, when it's not repetitive, when it's only one time. When it doesn't require a serious effort, but they can answer those questions by themselves. If you are afraid of some bookish definitions, yes, so what was I trying to show? Like, effort, hard, or easy peasy. Yes, so you can do something like this, mime it for them in this context, for this set of Lexis. Of course, for something different, you would have to do different things. But I mean, it's easy for them to say yes and no. Most of the time, even beginners can do that, right? But if they came to this conclusion, if it was their insight, you know, they are more likely to remember. Okay, so let me remind you that I had controlled practice as constructing mini dialogues, so some phrase and response. And my freer practice was role-playing the situation, how this poor Jane would tell her friend about the same situation, so informal conversation, basically. What other controlled practice and freer practice activities could be good for this set of Lexis? What can you think of?
Well, it's hard to say for me because I missed the beginning of the session, so like
okay,
nothing comes to my mind. Yeah,
I can show you the set of phrases here. This is our target vocabulary. So what can we do? How can we practice it?
To ask about your experience, have you ever got viewers? Or have you ever got a date? Have you ever get the date wrong, and so on?
Question: who is using the target vocabulary here?
it's we who actually demonstrate how to use it, and we give them context.
But still,
yes. And she will say, "Yeah, no, maybe."
You can ask your students.
Follow-up questions.
Yes.
Okay, ask follow-up questions. Have you ever got stuck in a traffic jam? No, because I don't drive. Ask me a follow-up question.
Ask to make sentences.
Well,
what would you do if you get stuck in a traffic?
I would walk.
Okay.
So she can make sentences using the target.
Elena, sorry, I missed the beginning of your phrase. Could you repeat?
She could make sentences using the target vocabulary. make sentences of her own.
Right. Of course, we can always say use the target vocabulary, but you know, the golden rule of practicing vocabulary is, how does it go? Just a second, I forgot. It's such a good phrase.
But we can. But wait a second. We can create a concept. Well, get going. Like we create a situation. Like, are you ever like? How about how punctual you are? Like something starting with this, and like a student says, well, I'm like I'm rather lax about that. Like I don't care much. Okay, but can you imagine that you've booked a restaurant and your girlfriend is taking so much time to get ready? So what can you like? How can you like boost the speed of getting ready? Like what would you say to a girlfriend to get it started? I don't know. So like
let's
some
go.
kind of let's go. Okay, can you use but well, actually maybe I don't quite understand what kind of context and how are you like preparing to learn this vocabulary? Because like I would actually we need context. That's the
we need context. We just say, okay, now make 10 sentences. That's, you know, not what people do in real life. Okay, so what I wanted to remember and to tell you was that let the task demand the language, not the teacher.
How may I?
Can I just finish my thought, and then of course you may. So think of something in which this language would come naturally. You know, like in my situation, okay, it's the person who was in the same situation as that poor Peter is basically telling the same story, but from her perspective. And it could be easier for the student because she can look at the events and use at least some of the phrases here. You can come up with dozens of different things, but something where it comes naturally, not the teacher tells you to use the target language, yes, but something where it could come up. Okay, maybe again, rephrasing something. Come on, we need to go, it's time to go, we'll be late. Which phrase could you use here? Oh, let's get going. But it sounds more like controlled practice because here we restrict the situation very much. Okay, let's brainstorm it. That's a good question. What could be some free practice activity that really not forces, but like puts the student in the situation where this language comes naturally?
We can ask students to ask questions using this phrasal verbs. And it's not phrasal verbs, it's just phrases.
The lexicalized verbs they're called, but okay, those phrases, this Lexis, that could work, but again, we tell the student to use this vocabulary, which is okay, that could be like semi-controlled. Yes, so we tell them what to do with this Lexis, but they build their questions themselves. I think it counts like a valid practice, and then we can elaborate on that, and then we can maybe ask some follow-up questions in some way that would prompt this vocabulary. We can lead them to the vocabulary. Okay, that sounds good. Anything else?
I think we could present a text with relevant vocabulary, but we can ask a student to replace some words, some verbs, phrases with these phrases from our lesson.
Okay, that's a good controlled practice activity. Very good.
So that's going to be a role play, but we just have to come up with a situation like which is going to involve, so we've got to actually attract the student from the Lexis itself, but to create like a focus in circus. So like a magician shows like I don't know, a puppet, and but the magic goes in a different place, and in this case like a relevant, adequate, and consistent situation, like overall play situation, is going to give us all the chances, and for us and the students to use it. So we just need to decide which one is relevant and like mostly useful in this case.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right that it should be something informal. And what else could we do here? We can continue this situation that we have, yes, because, okay, again, context is important here. So maybe Peter's sister, yeah, he wrote a letter, but now she can maybe talk to him, maybe give him some advice how not to get in this situation. As we discussed, all those have a look, have a stroll, have a try, they are suggestions, offers, so she could suggest how to fix the situation. We have something in the chat. Okay, someone has to go. Okay, thank you for being here with us. So whatever you come up with, it could be discussing maybe some movie. Can you remember any, or maybe you should prepare it beforehand. So there's a movie with a similar situation. Yeah, have you watched it? What happened? Or if the student hasn't watched, okay, you can ask me questions about the movie. I will tell you how that story was similar or different. Maybe if they had a similar situation, a similar story to tell, just make sure that you stay within this informal field. Okay, so we've discussed all questions that I had. Maybe you still have some questions about my lesson fragment.
It's interesting for me, what do you do when a student in free practice doesn't use the lexic he learned, but replaces it with familiar synonyms that he already knows, not not uses what we learned, but what he already knows?
Great question. Would anyone like to share? If the student avoids your target language.
Well, anyway, it's not such a bad thing if he avoids it. So I would not like say, well, stop him in the middle of the conversation. Like, you know what? How about the phrases? No, that is like not the thing I do. But well, that's actually a good question. Like, I also have such situations when I have to tolerate their like I don't know, ungrateful attention, which was not used by the student. So like maybe we can come up together with the decision, because it's challenging.
Yeah, so why the student is not using the target language? Because it's still new. They haven't internalized it yet. It's still hard to get their head around it, and maybe you need some scaffolding. Like in my case, I let Evgenia look at the text. And I didn't give her time because, as we agreed, we are rushing through the stages to be able to discuss. Yes, but for a real student, I would say, okay, take your time, think what you can say, how you can say that. You know, if they have this time, they want to use it, not just to sit and look at me. So they have a chance to look through the vocabulary and plan how they can use it. Sometimes for those who are reluctant to use the vocabulary, I can say, make your notes in the chat so that I can see them. And you know, if they typed it in the chat, they are more likely to use it in their speech.
Okay, and if we want, for example, to activate the target vocabulary in 1 or 2 lessons after, we also can do the same.
The same what?
Put it in the chat.
Sure.
Make them remember, yeah.
Yes, some brainstorming together. Unfortunately, our time is up, and yeah, it feels like a whole other topic for a separate seminar, how to revise the vocabulary, how to recycle it. Yes, but first you should come up with what you're going to practice. So whatever works, like, okay, now let's do it in turns, like you give a word, I give a word. Let's revise, I don't know, food items, different food. Yes, who can say more? Or what do you usually have for breakfast? What do you usually have for dinner? Yes, like put it all in the chat, and then when they can see those words, then start working with them. whatever activities you come up with, maybe putting them in sentences, maybe again miming and gesturing and guessing the words, or I don't know, something else. But first you should have this set of words, not like, okay, do you remember 2 weeks ago we were talking about food, so answer my questions about this and that. First they should see the vocabulary by all means. Okay, so that would be all I prepared for today. Do you still have any questions? If you do, well, maybe we can spare a minute if some question is really urgent now. Otherwise, there will be a follow-up poll and you will be able to ask your questions. Now, I would like to hear some feedback, how interesting, useful everything was. If you would like to start doing something similar with your students, and anything else that comes to your mind you'd like to share.
Thanks a lot for sharing with your experience. That was great. Though I joined the conference like maybe by the end of it. But anyway, it was nice hearing your tips, because actually I got I got the same ideas. Judging from my experience, not that I like theorize my knowledge, my practice. And well, actually, thanks a lot. Yeah, enjoyed it. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thanks Margarita for your feedback. Anyone else? Yeah, my assistant woke up just in time to say goodbye. Okay, so thanks everyone. I hope it was of some help and it gave you some food for thought, something to practice, something to maybe read more about. So thanks for being here. It's been a pleasure to work with you today. Special thanks to Evgenia for being such a perfect student. So enjoy your teaching and hope to talk to you again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.